Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sponsorship Morning Coffee. Back at it again this morning. Two great friends of mine, full disclosure, clients of Squad, so we work together, but this isn't going to be a sales promotion. Sam and Rachel, thanks so much for jumping on and chatting with us on all things sponsorship this morning.
Yeah. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, I got to bring up the one game I did come to, North Carolina, double overtime win. I got to say, of all the games on the schedule, I picked the exact right one. But I don't know if you know this, I had to drive back to Pittsburgh for a meeting that 10 in the morning. I'm like, this isn't going to go to overtime. And then went overtime. This isn't going to go any further.
Double, yep.
I will say I'm glad I stayed for that experience and to see that great game. But that drive home was rough.
Yeah,
really rough.
And we had a couple of those this year. You probably saw one of the best outcomes, but we just had a team that kept fighting and kept pushing for some double overtimes and triple overtime. So it was a struggle, but it was an awesome game.
Yeah, no, it was. I don't know how. Whenever I get on location, somehow I pick just games that are amazing. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's I'm hitting it.
You can come back too.
Oh
yeah,
for sure. My business partner Lee saw that's the game I went to, and he's seen some of the other games I've gone to that were really, really good games. He's like, man, I'm not missing trips anymore. I'm coming back. I'm coming with you. I don't care what my schedule is. So it was amazing. But thanks so much for jumping on. I'll start with you, Rachel. I always ask this. Always intrigued to see how people got into the sports industry. But what kind of got you into sports and got you over to Virginia Tech working there?
Yeah, so I think, being a student here, sports is, a huge part of the culture. And freshman year, I went to my advisor and I was like, I want to work in sports. How can I get started? And, she put me in contact with one of our marketing directors, and I worked with marketing for 2 years as a student and kind of learned about the sponsorship side through that. And then, my senior year, I got the opportunity to jump onto the side and just kind of fell in love with it. And I think the biggest thing was just, getting to see how the athletic department worked and the community that's over here. And it's just a fantastic world to work in. But yeah, I was hired after my senior year and started full time with these guys and haven't looked back since.
A year ago, like today,
this month. Yep. End of the month, yeah.
And I'm always curious, and I asked this to Chris last week because he went to Florida and then he went to Alabama, which was interesting. But being that Virginia Tech's your alma mater, how much does that help you within your job? I mean, understanding game day, understanding the student's perspective, all that.
I think it's definitely helped. I think especially with the transition and knowing a lot of the athletic department especially has given us a little bit of a boost in some areas. I think the relationships are, we all know they're huge in our world. And so I think having those within the department has really been beneficial to us.
Nice. And Sam, for you, I'm sure totally different. And this is how it always is. Everybody has a totally different story of how they got into sports and all that. But for you, what got you started in sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty common. I played sports all growing up. Came down to going to college. Wanted to keep competitive, keep playing, but also wanted a big school experience. So ended up jumping outside my comfort zone, going to Penn State from Wisconsin. Just knew I wanted to work in sports. Didn't know what degree was going to get me there. Had some conversations with my advisor and found a path. And quickly jumped in my senior year into an internship, which was great because my program actually required it. So it kind of forced my hand into getting out there and getting real-time experience. But, from there kind of, I think have a pretty common route and just started blasting applications around. I had a ticket sales, internship there for the summer. So went down that road and ended up with a ticket sales property and grew with that into premium sales with the 49ers in Levi's Stadium and some new stadium builds onto Minnesota and US Bank Stadium before I knew if I was going to jump, whether it be from tickets to sponsorship, that was a pretty good launching point. And my wife at the time had gotten into school in Virginia. So we took a look, and thankfully in Southwest Virginia, our IMG team here at the time had an opening, and really it just worked out. And now I'm on year 4, which is crazy because it's as long as I've been in one place for the better part of the last 10 years. So it's been great.
Yeah, it was senior year at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, exactly.
You brought up a good point, kind of on degrees. Obviously, there's like some schools have sports management, some schools have sports management grad degrees. Sam, when you're looking at new people coming on, like how much does your actual undergrad degree matter towards sports? Because obviously, like the real thing, and we were just talking about this, is experience, game day experience, how that works. Is there any sort of degree you've seen that has worked really well toward getting into the industry, or is it just can you have a philosophy degree and jump in on sports?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's unique is that you can almost pick your own specialty. The sports world really has a background and a collection of business, finance, marketing, sales, operations, to PT or, athletic training. I mean, really, I think if you have an identity of what area, or at least what general area you'd want to end up in, I was a recreation, parks, tourism management major, right? Like that doesn't apply to sports sponsorship, but a big focal point of that was commercial recreation and hospitality and tourism management. And I had a focus in marketing. And so from there, I think as long as that catapults you into, hey, what that first internship is it ticket sales? Is it marketing and running the promotions on field? Do you want to go into broadcasting? Just having an idea. You don't have to have it all figured out, but at least having an idea of what path you want to go down, you can start to kind of create your degree, or at least your focal points in your coursework and your classwork to set you up, to set you apart, I should say, when you're interning or when you're applying for those gigs.
Yeah.
I think also, jumping off of that, with sports, it's a little bit about the passion that you have for it, and you gotta want to be in it. And I think personally, I think no matter what your degree is, if you have that passion and you have that drive to make it happen, I think sports is a world that you can, maybe not have as much experience, but gain that experience. And it doesn't just have to come from your collegiate degree.
Yeah. I mean, I was an art major, so, and not, right. And not the graphic design kind. I was painting and sculpting and all that. So, I think you're totally right though. The experience piece is everything. Got my first gig, made a first batch of trading cards for a minor league team, and that's what got me into getting that experience. Kind of shifting over to sponsorship. Obviously, sports are shut down. Tournament was canceled. All of that. Overall, globally, the economy shut down as well. What struggles are you seeing from the partners you're chatting with, just from their side? Like, what are they looking for most right now, let's say from your organization, that you can help them with in sponsorship, whether that's driving sales or whatever that may be?
Yeah, I'll jump on that one. I think, a month and a half ago when this all started, I think it was pretty widespread. We kind of recalibrated and definitely went out to our partners with the human first approach. We're not calling about anything specific, but how you doing? What are you seeing? Kind of fact finding in a way. And it was different all across the board. I mean, I think we know certain parts of our restaurant partners need help. And we've seen a lot of awesome, unique innovations across the company of, doing different activations to push sales that way. There's some of our folks that we simply can't help right now. Something like a transportation, a hospitality, an airport partner. There's not really a message to push there to tell people to travel right now. So, I think it was a lot of listening and picking where we could tastefully support and reinforce, say a appropriate message, at the time. But I mean, I think our company's done a unique job providing some different category breakdowns and industry breakdowns of folks who are down, folks who are up. But from our partners, it's really come back to, hey, how can we help? Is it now? Is it in 2 months? I think the biggest challenge that we hear as a recurring question is just the uncertainty of the timeline. It's really tough to put pen to paper, to really put planning into action without having that. What's it going to look like? So I think we'll get there soon, but that's probably been the biggest challenge for now, is just, hey, we can talk about some things, but we really got to get a timeline put in place that gives us the green light to hit go on some of these things.
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece of it. As sports are coming back, whether it's in stadium with fans or not. How do you kind of manage that uncertainty with sponsors? How do you kind of how do you kind of, I guess, keep them engaged with your activations and what you have going next season, just when there's uncertainty? And, to be honest, we don't know when, how, or what that's going to look like when sports come back. Yeah.
I think it's something we lean on a lot, but it's clearly true, is the passion isn't gone. Our fans are there. They're engaging with, the content that we're able to do. And frankly, we've been able to do some unique things that we probably would be doing differently 2 months ago. And I think everybody can feel it, just that starvation for live sports, getting, that experience. Maybe it looks different, but, when that comes back, it'll be pretty cool. And I think it's going to open up some completely different, unique activations that you can plan for maybe a little bit differently this time around, or at this given time.
Yeah. And I think right now, we haven't heard that we're not having football. It's, right now we're kind of, hey, we need a plan as if football is happening on time, and we need to move forward. And if that changes, then we'll adjust. And, we've have plans in place for, a variety of different potential outcomes. But, right now we're kind of moving forward, and we need to, we can't just put some stuff on hold and just pretend like, we have the answer, because we don't. It could still happen.
Yeah, 100%. Now, with this shutdown, what I've loved is just the creativity of, sometimes in sports, we get so busy, let's say, with, okay, now it's off season, but football is only, 135 days away, where we haven't had the brainstorm, let's say, time to really think, okay, digitally, how can we engage? How has that kind of shifted, obviously, with going from, hey, we have sports on all the time and we can reach fans, let's say, in venue, to, hey, the only place we can reach anyone is online? Has that shifted kind of strategies toward, creating digital assets? And I'll start off with that question. How has that kind of shifted the way you think about or ideate kind of your digital strategies?
I think it has. I think everyone would probably agree to that. We're used to having our fans, and we can give them a giveaway in stadium, or we can make them feel, the passion and what Virginia Tech stands for in person. And now, like you said, we're doing that digital. But I think the important thing is to make them feel like we are still there. We're still all, one big Hokie family. And so I think that Virginia Tech, the athletic department, us, our creative team, everyone has done a really, really great job of continuing that, from the Zoom backgrounds to, making you feel like you're still maybe in the stadium, to, one thing that our fan base is big on is our jersey reveals. And, we're not necessarily in Oregon, but I think that's something our fans are passionate about. And so our athletic department came up with the idea of having a jersey bracket and a tournament, essentially. And so our fans vote on, some of our older, more classic jerseys, how they, do they like those over some of the newer ones? And so I think taking some of what we know about our fan base and what our fan base loves, and finding some creative ways to turn that digitally and let them still be involved with the process, and still be able to connect with us and interact. I think, one of the other cool pieces that we've done to help with that is some of the Zoom calls. And we, have Duncan on that has helped provide some of the coffee, which has been fun. But they get to connect with some of these old players, some of our coaches, and get some of the insights that we honestly probably wouldn't have had before. It's given us, that time to, everybody has a little bit more time right now, I think, in some aspects. And so we've been able to tap into some of those people that we haven't heard from in a while. And it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. From a sponsorship perspective, are you seeing more of an appetite for digital when maybe they were just, hey, we're all in stadium, digital is great, but we really do experience this. Has that changed sort of, I guess, the minds of some of your sponsors, just because you have to do it? I mean, like right now, if you want to engage, you have to be digital. Has that shifted at all for any partners who are purely, hey, we're physical, we're in stadium, that's where we live?
I think it has a little bit, and it's been interesting adjusting to that in terms of some sponsors we don't normally work with, again, on the digital sense. And so can we use their logos in this way? The people we use on a normal basis, we have their brand guides, we know how to use them, we know what they like. And some of these other partners, it's been definitely a learning experience of, how do you want your brand portrayed digitally? And it's not necessarily the same as how they want it in stadium. So I think it's been a cool learning experience for me, just getting to see what those processes are for different brands and how we can incorporate them into the Virginia Tech brand. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, kind of shifting here locally. I mean, obviously, I'm sure Virginia Tech has, regional partners, but then locally, just within Blacksburg, how has that shifted at all to where, I know we had chatted about activation that was very local. How have you sort of been able to maybe segment or reach the local Blacksburg area as opposed to Virginia Tech overall athletics and football? Have you been able to kind of segment that just to be able to help partners kind of on the social side, or what's the strategy been behind that?
I think the, one initial post, I know a lot of schools do it, is the restaurant post. These are our partners that deliver. These are the ones that do curbside pickup, all of that. And that kind of lives on our fan hub piece of our website that we, direct our fans to. But that's probably the main piece that we've done locally. I don't know, Sam, if you want to add anything to that, but.
Yeah. Nick, we teamed up on this, I guess earlier last month, but definitely taking some geo-targeted approach to some folks we've seen some success in that. To your point, not every one of our partners reaches the state. We pride ourselves on having a statewide audience, but if that partner isn't servicing or isn't reaping the benefits from a specific market, there isn't a point to putting a lot of effort, time, money behind some of those efforts, in certain cases. So I think it comes back to just those conversations and knowing your people. There's definitely hey, Blacksburg is home, but for 3/4 of our fan base to 90% of our fan base, it isn't exactly home. They like to say it's home when they come back for games, but it's not where they're going and grabbing pizza or a coffee in the morning or anything like that. So knowing where we can pick our precision points, I think was key, and tapping into our strengths where we can put a constructive message in front of a fan that may be specific to that geo audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving over kind of into renewals and prospecting, that's been the tough thing for us all. And obviously there's some partners who are doing great and their businesses are, fine. There's some partners who literally are hanging on. Kind of what's been the strategy behind, I guess I'll start with renewals, kind of, what's been the strategy behind, contacting, looking for new business, if that's even the case with some of your renewals, thinking about next season?
Yeah. I'll throw it back to kind of where we started this whole thing in March is first approach. being inquisitive, being conversational, not calling with an agenda, right? Like, you know, and that's the same for our partners. We were calling and, hey, how you doing personally first? You know, I mean, these are unprecedented times. How you getting along? You know, some do the work from home a little better than other people need that, you know, just, hey, let me get off my computer and go talk some sports, because we don't have sports, you know, with Sam or, you know, Rachel over here. And I think organically you get into a conversation about not necessarily just sponsorship, but, you know, best practices. You know, you kind of find maybe where the pivot points are, just within that conversation. I mean, if you have the relationship there, it's very easy. Otherwise, asking the right questions. And I think the biggest thing is you just don't really know what people are facing until you get them on the phone, until you hear their story. You know, we had a restaurant prospect who told me the other day, of their 25 stores, they've got half are business, half are way down, and another, you know, 2 or 3 are right in the middle. You know, I think a lot of people are a lot on the fly. And so being topical and, you know, having a solution-based approach and being able to throw some of that out, I think kind of naturally begins the process. You know, we had a couple last month, you know, an active check-in call really that turned into, hey, you know, we're doing all right. We're good here. I think we can just go ahead and, you know, get everything in. We don't have to worry about it. If we do have a shortened time frame come July, or, you know, even middle of June, where all of a sudden you're 45 days and you got a compressed, you know, amount to make it happen. So I don't know if it's necessarily as much of a process or strategy as just let's check in with our folks. You know, how you doing? How can we help? And you know, Rachel's spent a good bit of time starting some more frequent conversations, or just even like a newsletter approach to sharing, you know, hey, here's some best practices of our folks. I think people are looking for some of that, you know, and if nothing else, you can kind of look behind the curtain and take a dive into what you're doing and maybe how you can do it better too. So there's always kind of that best practices share within the conversation.
Nice.
Yeah, I think just to add a little piece, something else that we've been, you know, looking at is what assets is this going to allow us to add in, you know, when this all comes back. You know, of course, none of us know what that's necessarily going to look like, but are there additional services or, you know, different assets that we didn't have before that are going to be necessary now? And how can we help sponsors get their brand to, you know, have a positive message with our fans? And so I think that's, you know, something that we've taken some time now, like Sam said, and gotten to really talk to our people and, you know, see where they're at, but then also, you know, add in some of these pieces of, hey, you know, this is a spin-off of what you did last year, but it could be a little more relevant now. And I think that it's definitely something that is going to be continually growing as we see what this summer and what the fall is going to look like. And we can plan a little more, I think, once we get an idea of what that's going to be, but it's something that we're starting to plan a little bit on.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you know, chatting with your customers is the strategy that everybody keeps coming back to. And funny enough, like that's nothing hopefully different than what we've been doing in sponsorship. Maybe this outreach is just, hey, things are tough right now. I would have called you anyway, but obviously the way this conversation is going is totally different. So I think, you know, that's the key too within sponsorship, is just call them. Sometimes they're going to be doing great. Sometimes they're going to be doing terrible. I love the newsletter idea of consistently keeping them updated, right? Just from a partner's perspective, you're doing so much, and maybe a partner doesn't have the time to jump on the call because they have 50 to-go orders that have just come in and they're trying to fill them. Following up with the newsletters, I think, is really smart, scalable on your all end, shows you care, and they can obviously check that content out whenever they're free, whenever they have time. I used to sell restaurant ads, and the time when I'd get the most replies would be 9 p.m. at night, because if you're an owner chef, that's when you have time to actually reply to my stuff. And I think that's super key and something that, you know, whoever's tuning in should definitely take away. On that newsletter side, you know, have you guys launched that kind of with your partners, or is it still kind of in ideation phase?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I'll let you run with it because you've put the most time into it.
So we haven't fully sent it yet. I did create it, but we're still, you know, just kind of fine tuning a couple of things. One piece where we are adding is a letter from our GM, and so our GM is, you know, writing a nice kind of heartfelt letter, and so I think that will just add a little bit of a personal touch to our sponsors. And you know, we have some links of, hey, email us if you're interested in this, or, you know, buttons on there that they can easily click and it'll open up an email. They can shoot something back to us. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be cool to see the feedback from our sponsors and if they are enjoying it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and kind of content-wise, you had mentioned maybe some best practices. Obviously, the first one is going to be that statement, hey, we're here. Let us know what you need. You know, content-wise, and if you can't reveal, no problem at all. It might be a secretive, you know, email only for the partners. But kind of how did you kind of think about what goes into that newsletter to really make it valuable for those partners?
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a secret, so we're happy to share. But you know, the front, you know, top piece of it is a, hey, we're here. I think it's definitely something topical right now, and we included our activity book that we created for our partners. So we have everything from coloring pages, Mad Libs, create your own play, some, you know, geography lessons for the kids, things like that. So we have a link to that. And then, you know, we try to keep it broad. We have a piece of digital content. It's a banner ad that, you know, encourages people to go to an activation, basically. So just kind of talking about how you can, you know, link in different pieces of your contract to all go towards the same purpose. And then, you know, we talk about another activation that is our Ag Day. Spoiler for any sponsors listening, this is what your newsletter will be. But, you know, it kind of talks about, you know, a day that we have that initially started with one sponsor and has now grown to multiple, and something that other people could get involved with. So I think less of this person did it right and more of, hey, this is how you can, you know, help your brand, and this is something you could get involved in even.
Yeah.
And I think too, just to add into that, you know, it's, you know, hey, how might you look at things a little bit different? You know, we're trying not to get, nobody wants to get a newsletter that, hey, this piece of inventory is available. Do you want it? That's not our approach. I don't think it's really been our approach. So I think we've tried to some categories or just some topics that, you know, we can switch up month to month, week to week, however, you know, frequent we decide to go about this. But, you know, is, you know, hey, here's a best practice, or, you know, hey, here's their story. Here's how they did it. This is why we feel like it was impactful. And, you know, the Ag Day celebration that Rachel mentioned, I think, you know, was a great example of taking an asset and making it your own. You know, I mean, that's a full game sponsorship, but how do you make it mean more? And how do you spread the impact, spread the love from your investment to all your constituents down the line? And I think that's, you know, what the partner did a really good job of. So that's what we were looking to showcase. And I think that just sparks good, thoughtful, you know, creative conversation about, you know, hey, yeah, this is what the contract's, but we can morph it and mold it and make it unique to you too.
Yeah. What I love is you're keeping them updated without the email. What I would bet it turns into is like, they're gonna, you know, somebody's gonna say, well, I heard college football is not coming back till May. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you know, Virginia Tech's email is, you know, shooting off and saying, you know, so it just builds that relationship with, you know, your partner. And then on the flip side of that, like, it almost naturally phases you into go time, right? If everybody's following that newsletter week by week or month by month, whatever it is, you then send a newsletter that says, hey, the first football game has been announced. And next time, you know, you're automatically shifting your sponsor over to hey, it's go time. We gotta send them this logo. We gotta get these things ready. So I love that idea for your current partners and just staying connected. I think one thing that I've found, even just with the teams that we work with, is a little bit on my end is just, follow-up fatigue, because things are changing so frequently. I find myself following up and saying, hey, I heard this, how does that change something? Hey, I heard this, how does that change something? And the newsletter just keeps a consistent piece to where, it's already coming each week or each month. You don't have to kind of follow up constantly to get an answer, and they obviously can reply when they feel like it on that end. For you all, going from renewals to prospecting, new business, I'm sure, the pipeline was filled, you're out there rocking, you're talking to people, and then this all hit. Has this changed at all prospecting on your end, as far as, outreach and who you're targeting or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for the conversations that we were having that were active, say right around tournament time, progressing for 2020, it's kind of the same approach with your part. It's like checking in. How does this change things? I think it's so fluid that month to month, it's up, it's down. It's kind of a roller coaster. So I think people are looking to that flattening and becoming a little bit more consistent. But I think from a prospecting perspective, Rachel talked earlier, but I think it's out of the realm possibility. I think we all know that things might look a little bit different after this. There's no sense that some of the fear and the virus is going to just be washed. We don't know what it looks like. I don't know that our partners know exactly how the game day experience may change, but I think it's a unique time to maybe approach some folks who may make sense in category, or just maybe opening up some different approaches. And we don't have all the answers right now, but I think we've taken a look at, hey, how might you want to incorporate hand sanitizer units into your venue, into different messaging. I'm a firm believer in the best partnerships are formed from a common cause, and a part of that common cause affecting the fan experience for the better. I think our best partners have come when our sponsor and our UD partners see that the fans engage in it, that it value somewhere. And so I think that's come on our plate more recent than not, but I think we'll definitely dig in and talk with our athletic partners on, hey, how might we want to make this different? Maybe it's just a different giveaway for all game, right? I think it'll be interesting to see how that progresses across all lines of sports, not just in college. But I think you'll see, a trend of some of that. So we're trying to, jump in the mix there a little bit. Yeah.
Rachel, it looked like you were going to jump in. Do you have something to add?
I can add something real quick. I think also, just not, to give you a plug here, but something that we've been looking at is the digital gaming, and, thinking about our our fans that, while maybe we'll have the stadiums open with fans, it doesn't necessarily mean that every fan is going to feel safe coming. And I think that's something that we do have to recognize and, have an option for. It doesn't mean that we're going to give everybody free streaming to every game or something like that, but it could be something we've been looking at, the digital games of you can still interact and you can still, in a sense, be part of a game day experience without necessarily being there on game day. I think we all saw the Penn State at the virtual tailgates, which were pretty cool. And, we've been talking about, do you have a family member in California that would love to join your tailgate and never has because they're in California? And is this now an opportunity for you to engage them a little bit more into our game day experience? So definitely, looking at those digital gaming and how we can tie in some of our current or potential prospects into our game day experience that we maybe didn't think of initially before.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue into next question, which is, I saw a report that said, the number one thing that's going to make fans feel more safe and healthy at stadiums is hand sanitizer. So obviously the hand sanitizer station as a price for, or a hot commodity is super increased. But we obviously have no idea what stadiums are going to look like. Are people really going to social distance? If that's the case and we open it up, how are you guys approaching the physical space and thinking through what does game day look like and how can I safely integrate my sponsors into that?
Yeah, I think it's a stock answer, but I think changing. I think it's coming in active conversations. Our athletic partners, just for instance, had their first ticket deadline. Which is a tough balance to find. Without having something concrete and scheduling, or so much uncertainty on the horizon, getting people to pledge that hey, if I can be there, I'm going to have and the institution, they're going to make it safe or make it available for me to be comfortable, to go back to Lane Stadium or jump back into the venue, and be the fan that I want to be there and show my support. So I think it will come with a fine balance of messaging. We're not here to commercialize hand sanitizer, right? I think there's a benefit felt there, or that will be felt there. But it's also kind of that marriage of messaging too, to be sure that the brand and the school and as a property are aligned in what we want to put out there.
And kind of for large, I'm thinking, I keep going back to two things: boothing and fan zones. Boothing is our bread and butter. If you're a one-on-one, you're trying to make relationships. You got the spinning wheel. You got people all around the booth. You're handing out physical items. Has that shift? First thing is, have you had to shift, let's say, offering, or has your sponsors come back and said, hey, maybe boothing is not a great idea within your stadium? Have you seen kind of any of that pushback from sponsors?
I think a little bit. I think one thing that, at least for the partners that we do have those pieces in their contract, we've, started talking with them and, saying, hey, maybe think of some things that aren't as physical that people need to touch, or, maybe it's, again, more of a digital giveaway and less of something that they're picking up that day. We've looked at a couple different options on that, or, I think we talked with you about doing that scavenger hunt type of idea with QR codes. And so I think that we've kind of approached it that way right now. I think until we have some answers on what football is going to look like, we're not, having a specific, this is what we're moving everybody to. But there definitely has been some talk of, can we move some of this digitally, and what does that look like?
And I think there's some best practices in there. It comes back to, we try and be sound and not offering, hey, here's your specs, the creative we need, or, we need to know what giveaway you're going to do too. If I can put my 2 cents in here, so-and-so, or we saw this idea from somebody else who made it more, and added to the engagement factor with a redeemable offer. Hey, let's, giving away, a stuffed little hokey bird is, great for the kid, but, how do you get the parents in store? You don't want to devalue the customer's offering, but at the same time, hey, let's leverage that interaction, which can be held from a distance, to truly drive sales revenue for that partner. So it kind of tees up nicely at a time where digital has become the forefront and the new frontier to say, hey, yeah, tabling and having, an interaction with a fan at game day is an awesome touch point, but what does that look like after the game too?
Yeah. I secretly hope that this kills paper coupons, mainly because I have a vendetta against paper coupons, because as a graphic design intern on game day, my job was to clean up all the paper coupons that people had thrown on the ground because they didn't want it. So, secretly, I hope this kills those paper coupons, but obviously, paper coupons, I wouldn't say won't be an option, but I think you'll hand out a lot less in any way that you can kind of digitize that experience. I think sponsors will be on board for, and I think you're totally right. It creates the effect that you have to go back into the store to go redeem something, rather than going to that booth and getting that physical item and expecting people to go up and do that. Although, if it's a good enough prize, who knows? You know what I mean? Yep. It's sports fans love to win stuff, and yep. They love to go up and redeem that. Shifting gears a little bit, you both kind of gave your story of how you got started within the sports business. Today, I don't even know the number. It's got to be tens of thousands or maybe thousands. There are people who are trying to get into the sports industry for the first time, just spent 4 to 6 years going through college training for this moment, and now sports are shut down and offices are closed to some respect. I'll start with you, Rachel. Any advice sort of to somebody who's fresh coming out of a program like that and wants to get into sports, and needs to get their foot in the door to an organization?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's definitely hard right now in a situation that I don't think any of us are envious of, but I think there are a lot of things that people can do right now. The easy one is, you have your podcasts, your books, your, episodes like this, just getting involved with the sports community, even if you aren't in it initially. I think there's a ton of people right now that are open and willing to talk. I know, I've challenged myself pretty much every week to talk to a new person that I didn't know. And I mean, it's been from, the Staples Center premium seating people to, baseball ticket sales and, activation people with NBA teams. It's been across the board, all kinds of different people. And it's definitely opened my eyes a little bit to, we all say that the sports world is small, but it really does feel small right now. I think we're all kind of open to talking with each other and helping everyone out. And that doesn't exclude people that are just graduating. So I think that that's definitely a start. I think also just, having a little time for the self-improvement. I know we talked a little bit about, working out, and I just ordered a financial book to try and learn about finances myself. And I think it's definitely not only a time to help or to grow professionally, but to grow personally and be ready for whatever that next step is. Know how to have your finances under control, that you could, maybe work for free for a little bit and get that experience, or, kind of do what it takes to jump in.
Mm-hmm. And the same question to you, Sam, on your end.
Yeah. I mean, Rachel hit on everything, so I don't know what I'm going to add, but no, she, we're lucky to have her in our circle, and she's definitely taken the lead on, getting involved wherever you can. And I mean, I think there's a theme to that. There's a lot of folks, I think it's made you reevaluate and look back, and, we all can at some point take for granted working in sports. So, in my mind, this has been a good time of reflection for everybody. But I mean, I think that yields into, there's a lot of folks out there who've gone down the path, who are doing the same thing, taking, things in appreciation, looking at, self-improvement. Hey, where can I help? In some industries, furloughs and layoffs have led to, kind of a whole rallying together. So, my advice would be, don't wait for a job to become available to be proactive about it. I touched on earlier, knowing kind of what line of sport you want to get into, I think is very critical. I don't think it means that it pigeonholes you into that for the rest of, your time in sports, because it's so relatable and so interconnected. But, LinkedIn's a powerful tool. Staff directories are a powerful tool. If there's a job that you'd see yourself in one day, send an email hey, can you shed 10 minutes to just talk with me about it? And, the reality is, it's unfortunate, but, it may be months to, we don't know how long, maybe a hiring freeze may go on, and, that may be different for an NBA team than it is for a college or a minor league baseball team. But don't let that stop your building of your resume. It may not be jumping in as a, marketing and promotions intern for a minor league baseball team one summer. It may be getting involved in your community and helping pull off a community 5K. There's a lot of similarities that, if it's not option A, option B has a lot of relatable components. So, something like a 5K has a sponsorship element, has, fan interaction, if you will, right? To, events and operations. So, there's a lot of, I think, good experience you can get. But, to Rachel's point, it's kind of the competitive nature of working in sports is you put your time in, right? You kind of, you put the blood, sweat, and tears in. And, but the networking aspect to me has been probably one of the most critical pieces in working in sports. And use the time wisely to jump out and talk to somebody new. It may be in a completely different line of business that you just want to learn how that works. If you never thought about working in sponsorship or IT for a random flyer, like, hey, just jump on and, talk. So, certainly some unprecedented times, but, just finding ways to stay active and engage, and it's going to set you up that much further. Once we're back in venue together, we're cheering, we're having a good time at the, we'll get there. It's just, maybe going to take a little different look through a lens.
Yeah, I think the people who do the hustle work now jump in and ask for time. I've given more time to people who are curious than ever before, just because, we do digital stuff, but a lot of our stuff is during live games, and, minor league baseball season's postponed. So I almost had a game a day that I had to make sure activations are going well for. Now it's, much less than I have time. So I think you're spot on. Reach out to people in sports, build those connections, because when sports comes back, you're going to be the top of that list, just to engage and interact with. Or, hey, yeah, this person, chatted with me once a week, every week. This new position opened up. I think they'd be perfect for on that end.
I think you hit on to touch on a key word that I heard there, and I think it's critical to the approach is curiosity, right? Like, just be curious. It's not reaching out with an agenda. It's reaching out just to say, I don't know where the conversation is going to go, but I'd love to pick your brain, and I know personally, I feel for that because that was me, right? And so I think there's a lot of people who give back with time and insight and industry best practices by just being curious and not immediately pulling for something.
Yeah. And I think, also just for people that are in the sports world still, I think it's an important thing to keep going. I hope that a lot of people aren't just going to say, I'm good where I am. I don't ever want to move up. I don't ever want to grow. I think everybody has a chance to grow and to learn. And I think one of the cool things about reaching out to people that aren't necessarily in your direct line of work is you can get some really cool ideas and, tie them back. We might not be doing what, giant company A is doing for their specific clients, but can we take that to a different level and, change things up a little to meet what our clients need. And so I think there's a lot of value in that for people that are already in the sports world, or really in any industry, I guess, if that matter.
Yeah, definitely. No, I know I've started looking into, especially Disney, what Disney does fan experience wise, is incredible. And how can we steal that for sports? How can we literally say, hey, here's an article about how Disney deals with the entrance walk in, and they make sure to push corn dog smell at you right when you come in so that you go, all those fun things. So definitely, as we
a shout out David.
Shout out to David. Yep. Shout out to David over at Engagement. I don't know if he's tuning in. David, if you're tuning in, jump in the comments here. really appreciate the time as we close out. I always do this, and sometimes people do, and some people don't. And we chat all the time, so there might not be any new questions, but any questions for me on what you guys are seeing out there in sponsorship?
Oh gosh, putting us on the spot.
On the spot. It's totally fine. I mean, we jam all the time on some of this stuff. So
I gotta throw something at you. Shoot. I guess, and Rachel mentioned it earlier, and who knows, what September, October, November, may look like in live sport, but taking the in-venue experience and making it available at home. There's kind of a pro side to it and a con side to it. Do you see where there can be added value there for our folks at home, but still making the in-venue experience unique enough that you want to get a ticket and you want to come sit in the seat?
I've struggled with that. I think it's absolutely amazing that we can, at scale, reach more people than in our stadiums with broadcasts. It also absolutely terrifies me because eventually you're going to be so comfortable that you're not going to go there. Luckily for college sports, I don't think that's going to be too much of a trouble. I mean, my parents went to Cal. I grew up going to Cal games. Memorial Stadium was old, but the experience was great, right? Watching Marshawn Lynch beat Washington, watching Deshaun Jackson beat Tennessee with his punt return, right? So I think the biggest thing that you'll see is you'll see people who want to be there for that experience. And, especially for college football, you only get 6 home games, maybe. Yeah. That's only 6 shots to see that game. I mean, we even talked about the North Carolina game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness I didn't, thank goodness I went to that game and not another one where Virginia Tech blew somebody out. Not that it's not fun to see Virginia Tech blow somebody out, but, you're looking for that kind of engagement piece. So I think, what this has done is made it so that we are way more digital savvy to consume sports. And, as properties, we definitely understand, hey, we can make even more money if we create more content in the digital world. But then, on the flip side, how do we make sure that, you can't get all the perks and benefits sitting at home to see that experience as you could, elsewhere? I think that's the thing that I struggle with is, a scratch and win for off of our product, a scratch and win in a stadium, you can do so many more things. Send them to a booth, have them do VIP, sideline, things that they win instantly, and that's an experience. A scratch and win on Twitter reaches so many more people, but it's not going to be that same experience. You may win, some sort of 10% off. So I think what will be interesting after this is, even if we and the intriguing thing will be is if we come back with no fans. Yeah. Because then we'll almost be training our fans to only consume, outside of the stadium. Our thing will then have to be not only convert them, because I think the first weekend back for sports, you're going to see a ton of people flooding into the stadium. Yeah. From there, it's how do we consistently keep them coming back in when we've almost trained them for a little bit to just watch on TV. But again, I don't, baseball probably has more of a problem with that, basketball, because there's so many more games, NBA, MLB. I think college football is fine. Again, it's one of those things where you don't want to miss the game where it's a double overtime win against North Carolina, right? Like you don't want to miss that. Or
6 overtime win.
Yeah, right.
For football.
Like you don't want to miss that because you can always say, yes, I was at that game. Thank goodness I went to the Tennessee Cal game because Deshaun Jackson had one of the most ridiculous, returns. Whenever Cal's showing highlights, that's the highlight they show. Yeah. It just happened to be I went to that game and not a totally different game that, didn't have that. So I think that would be the key thing to think about is we do want you to engage digitally because we'll reach so many more people with it. But I also locally in Blacksburg or regionally or even people who travel, we still need to make sure that there's something in our stadiums that you have to be a part of and you can't miss out on. And again, less games and more tradition helps that. Baseball, MLB is the one I'd be worried about where, you could, there's so many games that could be good, but you have so many more shots to see that experience.
Yeah.
So, Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time and jumping on here. Our first sort of three-person morning coffee on this end. I always say this, what we'll do is we'll have you back on when we get games going back, and we'll come back on for a hey, how did it go?
Yeah.
What happened and all that. But really appreciate the time this morning and tuning in and giving your insights as always.
Yeah, it's been great. We love working with you, and we're happy to give our time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, thanks, Nick. We appreciate it. You guys are awesome to work with, and we're just looking forward to that day when we can get back, or that newsletter we can put out that says, hey, we're hitting go time. Let's let's plan and prep and get ready.
Maybe we'll do a LinkedIn Live first home game back in Blacksburg and stream that and do a quick little case study. But appreciate the times, guys. Have a great day, and thanks everybody for tuning in and listening in. See ya.
Thanks, guys. See ya.